Okay, we're now streaming live, Chair. You're all set to start.
Thank you, Peter. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee meeting of April the 12th, 2022. I'd like to call this meeting to order. First, I'd like to make the land acknowledgement. The Grimsby is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattawandronk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara Grimsby stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Thank you. I'd like to call for approval of the agenda. I need a mover and a seconder for an approval of the agenda. Looking for the rest of the, I see, okay. Sarah Nixon and Pamela Evans. I'm not seeing everybody on my screen, so I just have to make I think I have to make an adjustment here. No, that's not it. Participants, that's the one. Let's get rid of that. No, I don't. I'm having a problem. You have everybody on your screen? Okay, just a sec, technical difficulty. I didn't have it on gallery. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, Sarah, can you open your video so we can see you in case, yeah, I've lost you. Sarah Nixon. And yeah. And am I missing anybody? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I've got everybody. Thank you. So all in favor of the approval of the agenda. Sorry to take so long. That's approved. Our next item, is there any disclosures of interest? Seeing none. We have a motion to approve the previous minutes of January the 2nd. We need a mover and a seconder. No, we've got Pamela Evans, and is that are you moving that, Councillor Bothwell, or are you asking a question? Your hand is up.
No, my hand is not up.
Oh, I see a hand. You see a hand there?
I believe Brian Riley is.
Oh, sorry, it's my hand. My arrow turns into a hand, and it was over your screen. Sorry.
Yeah, he's seconding your motion for the.
Thank you.
Minutes.
Okay. So who's? Yeah, Sarah again. And Brian. And all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And we have some verbal updates now. That's the next on the agenda. And we're going to hear from Peter on verbal updates, committee members, and council decisions. Peter, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. You're doing a great job, Chair. And through you, Chair, to the committee members. So as the committee is aware, on February 3rd, staff received letters from the following members regarding their resignation from the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee. So Alia, Jerry Chuck, Kate Sharrow, Anne Brabant, and Mark Rady had announced their resignation. And that resignation was brought to council earlier, I guess, late last year. So the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee, the terms of reference state that the committee shall be composed of not fewer than 5 members appointed by council. On September 7th, council appointed an additional 4 members, as you'll recall, which brought the total membership to 9. So following these resignations, the committee's membership is now at 5. The committee's current membership of 5 members is adequate under the existing terms of reference. staff had recommended to council that any recruitment efforts for filling these vacancies be deferred until the new term of council. And that completes my update, Chair.
Thank you, Peter. Councillor Bothwell, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Peter, I'm just a little concerned. You mentioned that staff recommended that recruitment efforts not take place till the new term. This hasn't been discussed with this committee. So I believe it's this committee's decision to determine that, whether we're going to choose to recruit or not staff. Could you clarify that, please?
Sure, no problem. So sorry, when I said staff recommended, that was the recommendation that staff had provided to council in the report that we provided back in, I can't remember exactly what, I guess it would have been February this year. So that was approved by council, that report that we circulated around to members. So that was the direction that we received from council. So at this point in time, we don't have any intention to fill those vacancies. However, the committee has the ability, like you mentioned, Councillor Bothwell, to provide that recommendation to council. If you feel that filling those vacancies is needed, we could do that and receive that approval from council if needed.
Okay, maybe I'm just gapping. I'll have to go back to that report because I don't recall council actually saying that there should be no recruitment, and I might have missed that. That's fine. I just think that feeds into one of our other items on our agenda later today, which is the working groups. And I think, we can discuss this when we get to it, but with only 5 members, it kind of makes working groups a moot point, because the whole intent of recruiting those additional 4 that planning recommended was to bolster our ranks so that we were able to bring forward the work that was required for this committee, and not having those members will significantly impact the ability to do those working groups. So I'm really feeling at this point that I'd like to put a motion forward. I really think if you want to accomplish anything in working groups, we have to recruit. And we still have like 6 months left to go, and there is still some significant projects in play. So I'd like to put a motion forward that the committee consider whether we should recruit, and have that brought to a vote, please.
Do we have a seconder? Okay, Brian, all right. So Councillor Bothwell has put a motion forward that we recommend that we consider adding a complement of people. Are we looking at 1, 2, 3, or 4, Councillor Bothwell? How many do you think?
I would go with planning's recommendation, which was, that's why we added 4 the last time, was they felt 9 was a good number for working groups. So I think that would be reasonable to look at recruiting 4 members.
Okay. So we need a motion. You want to add that to it? Yeah, okay. Bianca's going to add it to the motion I had here, which was to receive the report.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Chair Dunstall, one more thing. Another thing is, as you know, I'm leaving this committee as of June the 9th. So you will have another vacancy of a council member that council will need to also.
Good point. Yeah.
Council member for.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
If the motion might include that council consider appointing another council member to this committee, as well as of whatever the next meeting after June 9th.
Thank you.
Or you won't have quorum. You won't have 5 members on this committee when I'm gone. So we have to recruit either way. We have to get a council member, and recruitment also makes sense. So thank you.
Okay. Bianca's just writing it out, and as soon as she's finished, I've already got Councillor Bothwell as the mover and Brian Riley as the seconder. So let me read the complete. Well, did I do something there?
No.
Sorry, Chair, that was me. I'm just sharing the screen, and thank you.
Good.
No, thank you, Bianca, for providing.
You've already got
this
it.
is just
Okay.
some suggested wording for
Okay.
the motion.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. Let me just.
Sorry, can I ask for an amendment to that, Peter? And that if you want to add something about me in there, and that council, and that we recommend to council to select another council representative for the committee as of June 9th.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Just because you can start actioning that at the May meeting, because you'll want them in place for the working groups and the.
No, good point. Okay. All right, let me just, so that was moved by Councillor Bothwell, second by Brian Rowley. Resolved that the verbal update regarding committee members' council decision be received, and that the council direct staff, well, it's a Heritage Advisory Committee, really, isn't it? Not council. Are we directing council? Is that
Exactly. Through you, Chair, this recommendation will go forward through the endorsement package to council. So at this time,
that's the way to word it? Okay.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, good. That the council direct staff to recruit 4 members of the public to fill the existing vacancies, and the council appoint a councillor to fill the vacancy upon the resignation of Councillor Bothwell. And I'll call for a vote as soon as you remove that from the screen, so I'm making sure it's passed. Oh, good. It's all written on here. And all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Is that exactly what that said? Yeah, good. Okay, good. Thank you, Peter. And on to the second verbal update. That's a Grimsby Beach study. And I'm going to turn the time over to Bianca, who's going to give us an update.
Through you, Chair Dunstall. So I have a pretty quick update on this, but a very exciting update. So the secondary plan, zoning bylaw amendments, and supporting documents were unanimously approved by council for the Grimsby Beach secondary plan. And tonight we have a large inclusion, which includes 90 properties within the Grimsby Beach area. So we're looking forward to presenting that to the committee tonight. But really good news for the study, and I think the community has been, so far the reaction we're getting is a lot of support. So very positive thing for us. So I'll pass back to the chair in case there's any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca. Seeing no questions, I'll look for a mover and a seconder, please. On that one, thank you, Pamela. And Sarah Nixon, thank you, Sarah. And moved by Pamela Evans and second by Sarah Nixon, that we resolve that the verbal update regarding the Grimsby Beach study be received. All in favor? Thank you very much. That's carried. Our next verbal update is the Main Street East Heritage Conservation District, and I'll turn the time back over to Bianca.
Thank you, Chair Dunstall. With the Main Street East study, I have some really great updates. So we've done some really robust and significant community engagement along the Main Street East corridor, and we had a mapping exercise available for the community as well as a survey. We also had the mapping exercise available in person for people who were interested in filling it out on a physical map. And then we offered both the mapping exercise and the survey in many different accessible formats, and we received some in an accessible format as well. And then we have also had our first stakeholders group for the first phase of the study. which went really well, and we got some really good information. It was an opportunity for the stakeholders to highlight important areas along the corridor, and we had some good discussion. And now we are awaiting the recommendations from our consultant. They're taking all of that feedback, and they're doing their analysis. So we're waiting to hear back on the next steps, if a district is warranted or if one isn't. So we're looking forward to hearing that recommendation. So I'll pass it back to you, Chair Dunstall, if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Bianca, for that update. Any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, I need a mover and seconder to receive that information. Brian, thank you for moving that. Brian Riley. And I saw, oh, thank you, Pamela Evans. So moved by Brian Riley and second by Pamela Evans that we resolve that the verbal update regarding Main Street East Heritage Conservation District study be received. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. The next verbal update is on the 133 Main Street East pertaining to the heritage permit, and I'll turn the time back over to Bianca. Go ahead, Bianca. Thank you.
Through you, the chair. So I have a really brief update on this, just because of the nature of the item. So I just wanted to update the committee and let them know we did receive an appeal to the heritage permit, and the limits of that appeal are an objection to conditions 16 and 17, which we discussed. I believe it was at our January meeting, and that's all I have to share at this time. So thank you. Back to you, Chair Dunstall.
Thank you. Yeah, I see a question up there. Councillor Bothwell, you have a question on this matter?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Dunstall. So I sat in on the public meeting from the Ontario Land Tribunal on Friday, April the 8th, and the legal representation from the applicant as well as our town's legal representation was present at that case management conference hearing. At that conference hearing, the applicant made a statement that they had not been communicated the decision of council with respect to the heritage permit within the time frame prescribed, and that as a result, they were going to invoke the deemed consent language, which was if the council fails to notify the owner under clause 6B within the time frame determined under subsection 7, the council shall be deemed to have consented to the application. So their legal representation made that statement to the case management officer, that was their feeling. They also indicated, as Bianca has mentioned, that they were objecting to 2 of the conditions within the permit. So I know that in an email that Bianca sent me back in November that she mentioned the permit was received September 15th, and that we had 60 days to deem it complete, because it had not yet been deemed complete, which would have made that November 15th. And from there, the email stated that we would have a further 90 days in order to make a decision, which would bring that to February 15th. Council approved the heritage, the conservation the permit on, and it was finalized at council on February the 7th. So can you perhaps clarify for me if that timeline was actually missed and when the applicant was communicated the decision of council, or if we are at risk that they're going to use that as an excuse to say deemed consent?
May I interrupt that?
Yeah.
The conference where was there representation made by the town solicitor?
Sorry?
Was there representation made by the town solicitor?
There, as in representation, he was present at that case management conference, yeah.
Regarding that issue, and if he did, what was the representation?
It was not meant to be a back and forth. It was a statement by the applicant only. Our legal representation did not respond to that.
I see the CAO's hand is up too. Do you want to speak on that?
Chair, this is becoming a legal matter, and I've talked to the town solicitor yesterday, and we should be a bit cautious how we're speaking in public about this. Our lawyer gave us some advice yesterday, and will be meeting with us with counsel in the short term.
So can I, CEO Schlein, can you confirm when the applicant was communicated the decision of council?
We know that the applicant was being spoken to verbally by our director of planning and building, and that the applicant was well aware of our situation.
So there was nothing in writing that you're aware of that was communicated to the applicant?
Again, I think we're just treading into some legal matters that the applicant was well aware.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no further questions, I need a mover and a seconder to receive this update from Bianca. Can we move this motion? Thank you, Pamela. And a seconder. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah Nixon. So moved by Pamela Evans, second by Sarah Nixon, resolved that the verbal update regarding 133 Main Street East be received. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We're moving to memorandums, which is item 7 on our agenda, street name requests, Corneef Court. And I'm going to turn to Garrett, and he's going to give us a brief update. Garrett, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dunstall, through the chair. Good evening, everyone. My name is Garrett France Wiley. I just wanted to briefly introduce myself again. I will be presenting the Corneef Court street name proposal. We've received a request from the Corneef family with regard to a street name within the development of the 314 Main Street East development. The naming of this street after the Corneef family will help recognize their contribution to the town of Grimsby and their success in the tender fruit farming industry. The Corneef family have resided in Grimsby since the mid-1950s and have been involved in the local tender fruit farming industry since 1968. The Corneef family have submitted a letter which has been attached as Appendix A to this memo. Staff are of the opinion that the proposed street, Corneef Court, represents the history of the property and have no concern with the proposed name. The Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee's input will be put forward to Council for their consideration. Thank you. I will pass it back to Chair Dunstall.
Thank you, Garrett. Any questions from our committee about the naming of the street? Yeah, Brian, go ahead. You've got the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Just on I was just reading through the letter that was submitted, and is the information supplied solely by the person putting that forward, or was there any additional research done by town staff into the matter and validating the information that was put forward?
Did you want to speak on that, Garrett? Or Bianca? Okay.
Through you, Chair Dunstall. So thanks for your question, Ryan. It was one of the names that was included on the memo. And during the discussion with the Heritage Committee, the committee decided to go with, I believe it was Indigenous names you wanted to look into and tree species. And we did have the archives provide us some additional information. However, the homeowner has asked again that we reconsider essentially our decision. And the archives had mentioned that there is additional history in the area that can be recognized, and they felt this was more newer history, but we still felt that it spoke to a time period where there was active farming on the site by this family. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you. May I ask another follow-up?
Yes, go ahead.
Just with reference to the Historical Society, and I wasn't around for the context of where their involvement or the recommendation comes in. When I read their response, it sounds as though they're neutral at best and not overly supportive. But how much do we need to take into consideration with the Historic Society's opinion or their reference? Is that a formal consideration that we should make with this?
You want to answer that, Bianca? Go ahead, Bianca.
Thank you, through the chair. So as part of our street naming process, we do consult with the archives, but ultimately is a recommendation coming from the committee to council, and then council makes the final decision. So it's an additional step we take to get a more fulsome story of the site, and just to help us make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Bothwell, you have a question?
Thank you, Chair. I would ask if staff could please provide what the other names that were recommended are, so that we can look at the full list.
Do we have other names, or? Yeah, go ahead then, Bianca.
Through you, the chair. So the names were proposed in the memo last time we came forward with this. We had decided not to go with those names. We wanted to go with street names and Indigenous names. So we had decided to go with a name that had already been selected by the committee and vetted. But the homeowners have asked again that we reconsider this name. So that's why it's come before the committee again. We don't have any need for street names in the immediate future, and we're going to be doing some more research for some of those tree species names and potentially Indigenous names, but right now this is a request that's come forward to the committee.
Thank you.
Pamela, you've got your hand up. You have, oh, there you are. Do you have your hand up? Did you have a question? Pamela, can you hear me?
Thank you, Councillor Dunstall. My internet connection.
Yeah.
Yes. Hear me okay?
You're kind of freezing up. It's coming through now, but yeah, try.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's been freezing up on and off, so let me know if there's an issue. I wanted to ask how many streets, I was trying to look up how many streets there were in this subdivision, and then maybe the name of the who owned the farm prior to the Corneef family.
Do you have that information, Bianca? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, through the chair, I know we have Walter here. Walter may be able to speak to how many streets there are. I know right now, I believe the consideration is Kittling Ridge for that court. I don't know, Walter, if you have more information on that. As for the history, I'd have to go back and double check the history on that. Again, this is just a reconsideration from the Corneef family.
Do you have anything more?
Thank you, Bianca. Through you, Mr. Chair. There are 3 streets in total in the subdivision. 2 of them are extensions of existing streets, and there is only 1 street that requires a naming. The applicant, the developer, has identified on their plan for our consideration Kittling Ridge Court. However, this, again, as Bianca has indicated, this request came forward from the previous landowners who I believe have indicated that they've occupied the property and farmed the property since the early 1960s, which would probably be close to a third or maybe more than a third of the entire history of the property. So that has been occupied. So yeah, that's really all I have. I hope that answers your question, Member Evans.
Is that, do you have another question?
I don't have, oh, sorry.
No, I'm looking at Pamela, but I think she's freezing up again. Yeah,
Right.
there, yeah.
The question was,
Sorry, it seems to still be cutting in and out.
Yeah, we lost you again, Pamela.
yeah, we didn't have information. Sorry, just to continue, we didn't have information right now, I believe, regarding the previous owners of the property.
Okay.
Other than the Corneefs have owned the property for probably
54 years to be
maybe a
precise.
third of,
Yeah, 54.
or 60 years.
Yeah.
54 years? Yeah.
Yeah, 68 would make 54 years to 2022.
Right, 68, right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah Nixon, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to just say that I would agree with the idea of putting forward the name Corneef Court. I feel like we shouldn't shy away from 20th century history. That's still relevant history in our community. And, you know, the Corneef Produce was an employer in the area and the family was here for a while. So I don't think I would support adding that to the list. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. All right, seeing no further questions, I do have a motion here. Let me read it to you, and I'll be looking for a first and a seconder. Resolve that the staff memorandum regarding the Corneef Court street name proposal be received, and that the street name of Corneef Court be recommended for approval by council, and that if approved by council, staff submit the name to the region for screening. So I need a mover and a seconder. Do I have a mover? Yeah, Pamela. And a seconder, Sarah. All right. Oh, Councillor Bothwell, you have a question?
Yes, I'd like to speak to this one more, to this motion. I looked up the previous names that were recommended by the Historical Society in our September 3rd, 2019 agenda. And they were, the list of historically relevant street names that were provided were Tavern Lane, Moore Street, named after John Moore, the United Empire Loyalist who came to Grimsby and were associated with that home. Hagar Avenue and Loyalist Avenue. So there was some detail in there about the 3 generations of Hagars owned the house as well. Hagar School was named for the family. The Moores, John built a substantial house on his farm and land. It was around 1850. So there's some history in this in the agenda. So I think that we're just we're dealing with a request from one member there, but this committee has not had the opportunity to review that previous submission from the Historical Society. And even though the previous committee may have suggested perhaps looking at additional names and Indigenous and tree names, I think that it would be prudent to go back to look at that list again when we're considering this request. So I'll just leave that on the table. Thank you.
So the motion's on the table. It's been first by Sarah Evans, Pamela Evans, Pamela, and Sarah Nixon is a seconder. That's additional information. Thank you, Councillor Bothwell. Let's see if everybody's in favor of the name Corneef Court. All in favor? I've got 1, 2. Shall we do a recorded vote? Let's do a recorded vote. All right.
Councillor Dunstall, sorry. I saw one vote for it. In the event that
2.
this defeat, I just saw Sarah shake her hair, not put a hand up. I don't think it was not a vote, but we can do a recorded vote. I was just going to suggest if the recorded vote fails, can I do a refer back to?
Well, yeah, that would. That's what I thought you were going to do in the first place, but you didn't. You just said you put it on the table for further consideration. So we're not.
Thank you.
Looking at a deferral at this point. But yeah, I mean, if it's voted down, I think that would be an appropriate thing to do. We can't just let it fall through the cracks. So, but I see my, Walter, you have a question now. Go ahead.
Sorry, pressed the wrong button. I just want to make the committee aware that through you, Mr. Chair, that it is somewhat of an urgent matter. The subdivision is nearing registration and a name needs to be included on the plan itself that gets registered. That's how the name gets established for the site. So we're within weeks of registering the plan. So referral back to staff or further consideration to the Heritage Committee, which next meeting wouldn't be for more than a month away, would be inappropriate in my estimation.
That's additional information. So let's do the recorded vote. Peter, are you going to carry on with that recorded vote?
Yes, Chair, I can do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Go ahead.
To the motion, Councillor Bothwell,
No.
Pamela Evans,
Yes.
Sarah Nixon,
No.
Brian Riley,
No.
Councillor Dunstall.
Yes.
That is defeated.
All right, Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Chair. I understand that there's now some sudden deadline to meet on this when it's unfortunate that it's come to us at this time, and that our meetings are now spaced so far apart. But I still feel that we need to have staff come back again with and provide this full committee with the previous report from the Historical Society, and as well why the developer chose Kittling Ridge initially. I think we need to also have them maybe do a bit more background on the Corneef to ensure that what's written in that is correct. And I think that we can have it come back to the next meeting instead of a working group meeting, have it come back to the next meeting of Heritage in May. Or earlier if a special meeting needs to be called.
Thank you, Councillor Bothwell. Pamela Evans, you have a question.
Thank you, Councillor Dunstall. Could I have clarification? My internet cut out earlier. Will we be choosing for the Heritage Committee, will we be putting forward one name or three names for the streets?
My understanding was one name. It's one name. Is that, yes, yeah, one name. Yeah, it'd be one name.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Councillor Bothwell, are you going to carry this on then? Are we going to get a motion to defer?
Yeah, motion to refer to staff to bring back the previous list of names, as well as the developer's rationale for Kittling Ridge, and confirmation that staff have reviewed the Corneef's historical records and validate those, and any other potential Indigenous or tree names that would be recommended for that court. To the next meeting, to be held at the next meeting or upon calling of the chair, depending on the timelines that planning staff require.
Peter, did you happen to type that out? Or are you typing it out?
Through you,
motion to refer? Yes. Motion to refer.
I'm typing it out, but if the
you.
committee's comfortable voting on it.
Yeah,
now,
yes, let's, yeah, okay, so that is, we need a seconder for that motion from Councillor Bothwell. Brian Riley's a seconder. All in favor of that motion? That we got 3, 4. Yeah, that's carried. It's unanimous. All right. You've got that, Peter? I'm going to move ahead then. So we're on to our next item, the working groups, and I don't know. Go ahead, Garrett. That's your, yeah, go ahead and speak on that, and we'll see. I'll mute myself.
Thank you, through you, the chair. I'll be providing a quick overview of the memorandum prepared by staff for the committee for additional information pertaining to working groups. During the February 7th, 2022 council meeting, staff were directed to implement working groups. The following 2 working groups have been implemented by council and are on the above slide for your reference. The first working group will focus on outreach and marketing. The The second working group will focus on resource protection. Town staff have created guides for each working group to assist the committee with completing the group's goals and objectives. Next, we will ask the committee members to select which working group they would like to be a part of. I will conclude and pass it back to Chair Dunstall.
Thank you, Garrett. Councillor Bothwell, you have a question?
Again, this comes to my point about recruitment, which we voted on, that we would like to see some additional members. I think that I'd like a motion to refer this until the recruitment process is completed. To defer this item until the recruitment process has been completed.
All right, that's you putting that on the floor.
Yes, please.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Okay, Sarah Nixon is seconding that, and that's to defer. We have some questions. Can we go through the questions and then we'll vote on this deferral? I think Sarah had her hand up first, if I'm not mistaken. Go ahead, Sarah.
Thank you. I do want to express similar to concerns of what Councillor Bothwell brought up in terms of the small number of the committee members right now. It doesn't seem as feasible what we hope to accomplish with the working groups. I also wanted to express a bit of concern regarding the guidance of the groups as they would stand. The current citizen committee members are all new. We started, each of us started in September, and I feel a little bit less confident in my abilities to in the working groups without the previous knowledge of previous committee members. So that's something else I wanted to bring up. I know at the January meeting, it was, I think it was discussed that staff members wouldn't be a part of the working groups. And so I'm concerned a bit about like direction. How do we know that we're going on that we're doing the right work and that we're going on the right path with these working groups, and, you know, keeping things professional, transparent, accountable, good quality. So I think my concerns are with the size of the committee as it currently stands, as well as what the guidance would look like in the working groups, given that we don't have previous or, you know, committee members who have been here for a long time to help with that guidance. Yeah, so I just wanted to bring that forward. But if we are looking to defer this until we recruit new committee members, that's definitely something that I support. But I just wanted some clarification on how we saw the working groups working in terms of staff and involvement going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, Garrett would like to answer that. Go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you for the question, Sarah. So staff will be available to help assist with the working groups and completing the tasks. We have completed compiling 2 guides as well for each working group, kind of outlining how to get the basics of the objectives completed, but staff will be available to assist with that as well. I'll let Bianca speak to the other question.
Go ahead, Bianca.
Thank you, through you, the chair. So as Garrett said, we will be available, like if we need to come to the first one to help you kind of get situated and discuss some ideas, but also along the way, if you have any questions, you can always email us. And I'm so sorry, I didn't write down the second half. Could you just repeat for me, Sarah?
Thank you, Bianca, and thank you for your response, Garrett. I'm trying to remember what the second half of my question was. So I was looking for clarification of what the staff role would be, and then also just the effectiveness of the committee, of the working groups with the committee of our size, and also the fact that we are such new members. Not that I'm saying we don't have the ability and the capability. I just the small numbers of the group is a bit of a concern. So I just wanted to raise that as a concern is all. Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. So I think that's a valid point. We were obviously expecting a more robust group for each item. And I know, like, we're going to talk about later the 100-year anniversary, but maybe if we did want to continue with the working groups, there could be like, because we can't have quorums, that's why we can't have one big group. So maybe we could divide into two. Some of the ideas we want to do for the 100-year anniversary, maybe there's some kind of brochure we want to put out highlighting maybe like 100 interesting properties in the town. Who knows what we want to come up with. And so I was hoping maybe we could utilize the groups for something like that in addition to the other things. And then maybe like divide and conquer and have something like that come forward. That would be just a suggestion. But I think maybe we could use these groups to kind of do that kind of divide and conquer, and as many people as we can have. I believe we can have 2 in each group for now. And then as we have recruitment, maybe we can add to the groups again. But I think there's a lot of opportunity still with them.
Thank you, Bianca. I turn to you, Brian, but I'm going to ask Pamela, since she's having the problem with her internet connection. Maybe it looks like she's able to talk right now. Go ahead, Pamela, and then I'll turn over to Brian. You have a question.
Thank you, Councillor Dunstall. I just had a comment, actually. I'm thinking that we move forward with, as a committee, doing what we can, even though our numbers might be smaller, considering there is the 100th anniversary, that maybe we be utilized, community outreach, marketing, etc., and perhaps focus on what we feel is more imperative to begin with. So that's just my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I share similar sentiments on just the abilities of a team that is, or a committee that's far less than when we originally voted on the working groups. But I did want to get a sense of, if we do delay this until we get committee members on, how far back would that set the work that the working groups were planning to do, and how is that impact the timeline that town staff had planned for these objectives?
Bianca, do you have an idea how? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. So the intent of the working groups was for the committee to tackle their own goals. So I know we have a lot of new members and we've lost some members. So I think the goal would be to continue to achieve some of those goals. And I don't think there's a number that we were hoping to achieve. I think just movement in general is overall going to add to the preservation of history in the town. And a lot of that is through knowledge. And I think that these brochures and outreach are important. And I know the other piece was resource retention, which I know we're working very hard on here in the town. And with designation now being such an uncertain outcome with the changes through Bill 108, I think we could really benefit from, that research that's being done. And maybe even we can use that through the 100-year anniversary to show like how many amazing resources we have in the town. So I think, I don't want to say we'd have to accomplish all of them in a certain timeline. I think any movement is very positive. So I think we can still make a huge difference. We might be small, but I know we're mighty. So I'll go back to you, Chair Dunstall, but there's no timeline and there's no number that we need to meet.
Thank you, Bianca. Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Chair. Normally when a deferral motion's on the floor, there's no discussion, just to bring that forward to you as Chair. It's usually just voted on immediately. But allowing this discussion was helpful in the sense that the reason I brought it forward as a deferral was because this is a new initiative, the working groups, and it's never been in place before. There are no structured goals. It is an awesome idea moving forward, and I think the new term and the new committee into the new year will review the strategic priorities and set some goals and timelines perhaps with these working groups. But for now, I think that if we defer it, it will just allow it to be better structured and more refined, as Sarah's kind of mentioned, and we can have a stronger group together to do those. But I think the 100-year anniversary can be done outside of those working groups. And I think when we get to that item under new business, certainly members of committee can volunteer, as long as you don't have a quorum, as you said, to work specifically on that task. And I think that doesn't mean it has to be left by the wayside, and it can be a priority focus on a very short term, which it needs to be for this committee. But I would still, my deferral motion is to defer the working group structure and the tasks. And that's the motion that's on the floor for this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bothwell. Peter, do you have that written out, or should I write it out here? Defer this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Dunstall. Essentially, I have it written here. It's that
Okay.
So the motion is to defer the item until the recruitment process is completed.
Okay, and that's moved by Councillor Bothwell. Who seconded again?
Through you, Chair, I don't have this.
Okay, Sarah Nixon, you'll second it. I thought maybe we had one, maybe we didn't get one. Okay, so we have a seconder on this deferral. All in favor of deferring this motion to have the working groups received and structuring them now to defer it back until we have more members on the committee. So all in favor, Councillor Bothwell, Sarah, yeah. Okay, that's unanimous. So that's deferred. Deferred to. Oh, yes. Thank you. Because I would forget later. Yeah, okay. Thank you, everybody. That was a great discussion, and we'll move on to reports. This is the mass inclusion report for the Municipal Heritage Register. First item under number 8, a register update, and I'd like to turn the time over to Bianca to give us her thoughts.
Thank you through the chair. So I have a quick presentation, but I'm very excited about this initiative, and I'm looking forward to talking with all of you about it. So this is a proactive strategy that was conducted by staff and is intended to ensure the long-term retention of heritage resources within the town of Grimsby. So the results from the heritage study are as follows. So 90 properties located within the Grimsby Beach area and surrounding neighborhoods are being proposed for inclusion, along with 86 additional properties within the town of Grimsby. The brief rationale for the properties included within the Grimsby Beach area are as follows. So it is through the layering of architectural styles and the incorporation of key landmarks that the intangible stories of the Methodist campground and the Grimsby Park movements are preserved in tangible form. The evaluation and protection of this area will ensure the long-term protection of both the identified tangible and intangible values. Inclusion of properties on the register is an integral step forward to ensure the culturally significant area has demolition control protections in place. And I just wanted to note here that there was a strong support from the Grimsby Beach community to move forward with these properties. And we heard a lot of feedback that they wanted more protection for the area. And so this is an integral step forward to provide proactive protection within the Grimsby Beach area. And I'll speak a little bit more about how we're working towards long-term retention for some sites a little further down in my presentation. I'm going to quickly give you a brief rationale for the properties included within the town of Grimsby. So these are not just in the Grimsby Beach area. This is more of a general town of Grimsby rationale. So additional properties throughout the town of Grimsby have been included based on their potential to yield integral information about the development of the town of Grimsby. These properties contain building stock constructed as early as the Georgian time period and well into the turn of the century. Heritage staff added these properties based on a preliminary review for significance against the Ontario Regulation 906. So I will note that we are continuing to conduct intensive review on properties that were identified as having strong contributing resource or are contributing strong contributing resources within the heritage portfolio if added. So the protections provided by the register is only an interim measure for those sites while extensive review is completed and possible designation is pursued. And with that, I'll note we are looking at some ways to have the heritage homeowners more involved in the designation process because of some of the implementations coming through Bill 108. So that's why, designation is not going to be a quick process. It's going to involve the homeowners much earlier in the process with hopes of getting owner concurrence and having long-term protection to the site, but also having a comprehensive and exhaustive bylaw to go with these properties and not having attributes be put at risk. So that's really important to us, and we continue down that process. And then the second piece of the report is that in addition to proposing inclusions on the register, we also wanted to ensure that the document was updated by removing properties that no longer merit inclusion on the register. These properties and the rationale for removal were provided in the Appendix B of the staff report, and they're very specific for each property. And in conclusion, this mass inclusion strategy will ensure that the town's heritage resources are being proactively protected and ensure that staff, the Heritage Committee, and Council are aware of where all our significant heritage resources are located. And it is our recommendation that the Heritage Committee provide their support and recommendations to Council to ensure that this direct heritage-focused strategy is put in place to retain the invaluable resources that we have in town. And it is also recommended that the properties in Appendix B of the staff report be removed from the register to ensure that that document is as up to date as possible. So thank you, and I'll pass it back to Chair Dunstall for any questions.
Thank you, Bianca. A lot of hard work went into that. I want to thank you very much. Questions from committee? Brian Riley, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. To the town staff, just a question. You mentioned that there was strong support from the Grimsby Beach area. Is that the 90? So it's 90 homes, I think I read in your update there. Is the 90 they're supportive, those homeowners specifically, or just the general community in the Grimsby Beach area?
Would you like to answer that, or do you want me to answer? No, go ahead, Sarah.
So through you, the chair. So the Grimsby Beach support came from the land use planning study that was being conducted in the area. And while we had added in provisions within the secondary plan to provide additional support to the area and protection, we also implemented a heritage and sorry, I'm just trying to remember the name. It was heritage guidelines, but it was also I'm sorry, I can't remember the full name of it, but it was heritage guidelines essentially. And then the community had asked for further protections for the area. And so we had proactively started to review the properties quite early in the study. And so we heard them, and we continued to conduct this survey, and that's what, or sorry, not the survey, this evaluation. And that's where the 90 properties came from. I can't speak for every one of those homeowners being in support of these being in support, but I know it was a majority of the community that had voiced that to us. And then just further to that, owner concurrence isn't required for the register because it is not as onerous as designation. So essentially, Section 27 of the Ontario Heritage Act, it provides demolition control measures. So if someone is to go and demolish a heritage home that's on the register, it gives the municipality 60 days to evaluate if that building should be designated or not. And due to that, kind of base level of protection, it really doesn't cause a lot of onerous constraints on the homeowner, and thus the Heritage Act doesn't mandate us to have owner concurrence. So while there is majority support in the area, I can't speak for every homeowner, but I hope that provides some insight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pamela Evans, go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Dunstall. First, this is a much larger discussion, and I would like to see a further discussion, if we could, at the next meeting. I'd like to separate this. Little brief history. So when I purchased the house many years ago, we did the due diligence of asking if there was any designation, any intentions to designate. And everything came back that there was no intentions, and that years later, the registry came, and it came through the Heritage Committee. We were told that we would be added to a list of heritage homes, and it was simply for planning purposes. Years later, we find out there's a few changes to what we were told, and that there's a 60-day demolition consideration. So I have absolutely no issue with the 60-day demolition consideration. I fully support it. I would actually support it on every home in the community. What I have an issue with is I have had 2 insurance companies walk away from me. I now have another one, and the comment from my agent was there is an association with the word heritage that can be, could cause homeowners a great deal of frustration. So I would like us to, if we're going to ask for more from certain homeowners in this community, we need to do more. And we've already seen the regions pulling back on their portion of the grant. So I would like to, at the next meeting, we look more as terms of what we can do in terms of addressing the insurance issue. And I have an amendment that I would like to add on. Can I read what I would like to add on for us to do, for us to go forward with this?
Well, you can put out an amendment. You'll need somebody to have to second it for it
Okay.
to, so.
I would just like, and that prior to the notice that's mandated by the Ontario Heritage Act, I would like to propose that we as a committee with staff reach out directly to homeowners prior to their inclusion on the registry. The committee work with staff to come up with talking points so the most accurate information is prepared for the homeowner. We plan an information night with homeowners, staff, and committee members to engage in a meaningful conversation and address the homeowners' concerns. I just feel as a committee, if we're going to add people to the registry, I think we need to meet with them face to face, and we need to address any concerns. I think it's transparent, and as a homeowner, I would have liked that consideration shown, and I would have liked to have been heard on the insurance industry, insurance issue. Thank you.
Do we have a seconder for this amendment? I don't see any seconder, Pamela, so your amendment will not hold. It's
Okay. Thank
okay.
you.
Sorry. Councillor Bothwell, you have a question?
Thank you, Chair. So I think we just have to be a little cautious, as the role of this committee is to protect heritage, and the role within the OHA, our role is sometimes to put on the register homes that are at risk, and it may potentially be done because there's a valuable heritage resource that we need to protect, and you will not always get the support of the homeowner to do so, knowing that the register is only a delay of 60 days for demolition. It's not designation under the act. So the register is quite different, and our role, we have to be very cautious that we're not, we can lean towards education and communication, which is great. And there's a lot of tools that staff have put in place to inform homeowners what being on the register means versus being designated. Quite different with respect to insurance as well. So, but I think those tools and that education is important, but we can't, giving the rights to a homeowner to say yes or no, that's not necessarily the role of this committee. I think we just have to be very cautious. It's a fine line. So I would also just add quickly that I had some other, as a counselor, questions about insurance for actually designated properties. Staff have a list of potential insurance companies that can be approached. And I think it would be really great if that could be posted on the Heritage website as well. And I have a few that I'm more than willing to share with anyone who has that question about who can they approach for getting insurance for heritage properties. There's quite a list. So, those things are great if we can educate and communicate them and make them available. I just would like to ask planning staff, Bianca, if she can clarify for me, because the number of homes that I'm seeing are being brought forward in the beach is 90. The report in front of us under purpose says that the proposed 176 properties would represent 32% of the 541 on the register. And then in this next paragraph, it says the subject properties 179 be included on the register. So I just would like to ensure this report is correct when it does go to council. And I believe those numbers should say 90 properties, because that's all I can see in the attachment. So if staff could confirm that and whether or not this report needs to be updated with the correct number, that would be great. And then again, one last question, please, for staff, that the beach community still seem to show a lot of interest in looking at Heritage Conservation District. So although these properties are being added to the register, that does, if you could clarify, that doesn't prevent members of the community from moving forward with requesting council to do a Heritage Conservation District study. Is that correct? Thank you.
Go ahead, Bianca. You want to answer that question?
Thank you, through you, the chair. Thank you, Councilor Botha, for those questions. When I get talking, I end up forgetting. So sorry. Let me just note a couple of those things. So first to the insurance, the document Councillor Bothwell is referring to has been circulated a little bit in the community. I was working with homeowners as they got that, just to give me some feedback from the insurance company if there was any issues or things that came up, so we can continue to enforce that document and make it as useful as possible. So it is a very much working document right now, but I do like your suggestion of having it on the website. So we'll work on getting some maybe some graphics to make it really easy to understand, and then also provide that support. I think that one-on-one support when it comes to that is really helpful, because the feedback helps us to make that document even better. The number of properties, so I don't know what happened with the report, but for some reason it came up as 179 at that one spot, but it is 176, and it's 90 from the Grimsby Beach area and 86 from general town of Grimsby. So that's where those two numbers come from. So 90 in the beach, and then we're also recommending the additional 86 within the town of Grimsby. There's a lot of really great ones in general for the town of Grimsby, and we're really excited to have those included on this list. We wish we could go through every single one of those with you. And then to comment on your part about the HCD. So I'm sure you're familiar, when we did the HCD on Main Street, we did a huge inclusion there as well. Because we know HCDs can take anywhere from 3 to 7 years on average, depending on the amount of appeals we receive to implement. And so we wouldn't want that area left in a vulnerable state. So with Main Street, we put them on the register so that we had that continued interim protection. And if we needed to act, we could. So in the Grimsby Beach area, if the community decided they wanted to move forward with an HCD, we now have that interim protection in place, if that were to be a recommendation. And I also know we beefed up some of the policies in the secondary plan to add additional protection for registered properties. That will help to give those sites additional protection. So it doesn't prevent an HCD. If anything, it would give us interim protections if we did decide to go down that route. So I hope that answered your questions.
Sorry, Chair, one follow-up question, please.
Go ahead.
I think I understand better your number, but I think then the 85 has to be changed to 86 in their purpose. Okay. So just a couple number changes there. And then the recommendation is only to include the 90 at this point. We haven't seen the other 86, correct?
They're all within the attached index cards.
There's only 91 in Appendix A.
I'll have to double check that, but I believe they were all within there. We'll just check really quick, but
could you, because
yeah.
okay. I'm sorry. Okay, like there's 91 pages. So to me, that was not okay. So
there's a few on each sheet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. I can go through individually, but there's 2 in some pages.
About 2 each. Yeah. And then to your point, I just didn't want to update the report before the meeting today because I didn't want you guys to think there was new information. But my plan is to work with Peter to get that updated. And then that way, when the CEP goes to council, it's for the most up-to-date information. But yes, our recommendation is both are recommended for inclusion on the register.
Thank you. I guess I'm just confused because the attachment Appendix A starts with Grimsby Beach core study area, and then it starts listing the homes. So I think it might be helpful if for council if they were separated, the 90, the 86, because this way, if I were going to go look it up again, I would think these are all Grimsby Beach ones. So
okay, because it came like if you continue down the document, then it introduces Town of Grimsby underneath.
Okay.
It breaks them down. So Garrett did a great job doing maps of each core of each area. So you can kind of see the general map. But then when it gets to general Town of Grimsby, we didn't have a map because it's quite a substantial area. Yeah, it continues down. But if you think that's helpful and the committee is okay with that, then I'm happy to update the agenda. I just didn't want you to think there was new documents.
No, it's total. I don't know if it's, I think it might be helpful to separate them because you've got like page 19 is the Northwest study area, the core. I don't know. It just, especially the beach, just because the beach section is directly related to the secondary plan and the consultants report that we're working on right now. So it just might be helpful to keep those as its own entity, whether, you know, the three areas, but all of Grimsby Beach as its own and then the other town section. That's just a thought. I'll leave it with you to determine what's best for council, but thank you. Appreciate that clarification. Thank you very much.
And I was just going to add on to one point that Councillor Bothwell mentioned there. So just to be clear that it does echo it in the secondary plan, but the protections provided by the Municipal Heritage Register, Section 27 of the Act is the exact same as the general Town of Grimsby. Every property has the same level of protection. It's not a special protection, just for homeowners if they're listening. I just want to be clear on that piece. So thank you.
Pamela, you have another question? Go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Dunstall. More of a comment. We keep going back to the beach study and how it's important to certain members there to pursue an HCD. There's nothing stopping these homeowners from coming forward for designation if they feel so strongly in protecting, yet we haven't seen that. So, and with an HCD, it generally does bring forward mass designation. So when we keep hearing this, I'm just kind of curious why we're not seeing homeowners just take the initiative then to come forward. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Seeing no further questions, I would like to read the resolution, and I'll be looking for a mover and a seconder. It resolved that the report HG 22-03 Mass Inclusion Update to the Municipal Heritage Register dated April 12th, 2020 be received, and that the properties included in the Appendix A of this report be recommended for inclusion to the Town of Grimsby Municipal Heritage Register, and that the properties included within Appendix B of this document be removed from the register. I need a mover and a seconder. Thank you, Brian, for moving it, and Sarah for seconding it. And all in favor of that motion? And that is carried. Thank you. All right. Good. So we've got the next item on the agenda from A, reports, number B, Heritage Grant 130 Main Street East, and Garrett is going to speak to us on that. Go ahead, Garrett.
Thank you, Councillor Dunstall, through the chair. Peter, if you could put up the first slide as well. That says 130 Heritage Grant. Perfect. Thank you. Yep, that's the one. So I will be presenting the Heritage Grant application for 130 Main Street East. An application for a designated heritage property grant has been submitted by the owners of this designated property at 130 Main Street East, also known as Greenbelt Academy. Vickers Restoration from Ancaster, as well as Lodge Paint and Repair from Welland, were both contacted to provide a scope of work and quotation for the exterior carpentry restoration. And due to exposure to the elements and the age of the building, the exterior woodwork is in need of restoration. The following repairs are needed, such as replacing wood rot, missing or damaged elements, and there's some areas experiencing water infiltration. The original porch carpentry features on 130 Main Street East remain largely intact, which includes the columns, column bases, corbels, railings, tongue and groove flooring, and porch skirting. It is crucial to utilize replacement materials that are consistent and compatible with the original fabric of the building. This will ensure that the original fabric is not sacrificed by the introduction of a modern or incompatible material. And Peter, if you could just switch to the next slide for me. So the proposed works are repair of the column bases. There are 6 columns in total, and approximately 3 of the column bases need a full replacement. And 2 of the columns have been strapped to prevent the column staves from separating farther. This may require the columns to be disassembled and reassembled or in-kind replacements made. The porch flooring is original and a majority of the timbers are sound. Some of the joists and load-bearing connections may need replacement or reinforcement, and some footings and beam pockets in the masonry may need repair or replacement as well. As you can see in the picture, the porch skirting has been replaced with a timber diamond type of skirting that is failing on all 3 sides now. The original skirting most likely would have been similar to the square handrails above. Lattice has been proposed as it will be closer to the look of the original building. While the porch has the original railings, some replacement pieces have been added that have introduced multiple trim profiles. Enough of the original railing remains to repair and replicate the damaged and missing elements. The railing height will not have to be brought up to code because the railings are being repaired and not replaced. And the original tongue and groove flooring is mostly intact. However, some boards have been replaced with regular deck boards that lack tongue and groove joinery. Feathering and replacement tongue and groove boards will help prevent running seams, which is what we have now. You can see in the picture on the left, which allows water infiltration, and it will help improve the stability of the floor. So the proposed works are to replace the failed column bases as needed, repair and replacement of the missing damaged tongue and groove floorboards using in-kind replacements, and the whole porch floor will be sanded to remove excess paint buildup as well. Replicating the missing bolsters on the handrails and repairing missing and inadequate replacements of the bottom rails, and properly securing the handrails to the masonry walls. Replacing the undersized precast concrete stairs that come off of the side of the porch with wider wooden stairs closer to the originals that will have a proper rise and run for each step, and reinstating the wooden handrails that would have been there, and replacing the modern porch skirting with lattice that is set in framed panels. Town staff have prepared this report to provide the committee with background information on the funding request in the hopes of expediting the funding request to the region and securing the funding for the restoration works. While the region has indicated that there is limited funding available for heritage grants, staff are of the opinion that the proposal conforms to the Parks Canada standards and guidelines for restoration of historic places, and that the proposed works constitute repair, restoration, and maintenance. In summary, staff recommend that the site located at 130 Main Street East be endorsed by the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee to receive a restoration grant for the above described work, and that staff prepare the Heritage Improvement and Restoration Grant Agreement to be signed by the applicant, mayor, and town clerk. I will pass this back to Chair Dunstall for any questions.
Thank you, Garrett. I see a hand up, and I don't have my full screen, but so I'll go with Brian right now because that's who I can see.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions on this one. In looking at the two quotes, are the two quotes equivalent, and they're kind of written differently, and a layman here not being able to really interpret them? The two quotes equal in what they're proposing they'll do?
Yeah, so the proposed works for each quote are pretty similar, and they're pretty close in price as well. We're familiar with the work done by Vickers Restoration as well, who we've spoken with.
Okay, so this recommendation is strictly that we proceed with supporting the request for the grant, not there wouldn't be particular one of these quotes that town staff would recommend or stipulate that the money needs to be spent on?
No, Bianca, did you hear the question? Since I've had a Heritage grant, I know what the answer is, but go ahead, Bianca.
Thank you, through the chair. So tonight we're making the decision on moving forward with the grant. The two quotes are due diligence, and the homeowner will likely choose the person with the most experience. And I know one in particular works with the National Historic Sites. So that was something that was of interest to the homeowner, but ultimately we can only give a recommendation, or we can only give a list of professionals. We can't give a recommendation on which one is better. We allow them to choose that, and typically the people included on our list of referrals come highly regarded in the field, and we relay that information to the homeowners, but ultimately it is their decision.
Can I just ask one quick follow-up, and sorry for all the questions.
Go ahead.
Process on this one. So is the process that they get approved for the grant, they carry out the work, they get reimbursed after the fact? Is that how it works, or do they get the money up front and go from there?
Go ahead.
Through you, the chair, that's correct, Brian. We make sure that the work is done appropriately before funding is released. And in order to determine if it's done appropriately or not, we're following the standards and guidelines for historic places in Canada, which is given to us by Parks Canada.
Thank you.
No, in other words, you don't do anything until you see a paid invoice. The invoice has to be paid, I believe. So, Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Chair Dunstall. This is the first one I've seen where we're actually paying the full amount of the restoration work. And a lot of them, I seem to recall, we only pay a portion, and then the applicant is responsible for paying a portion as well. So if you could clarify that. And the 30,000, am I assuming that's 15,000 region, 15,000 town, and the 15,000 region is the SNP grant? And the third question is, we moved 10K into the budget from professional services to provide for grants. What is our current balance available for grants, and is this going to empty it? Thank you.
Go ahead, Bianca. You want to answer that? There's
Sorry.
3 questions.
Hi, Councillor Bothwell, could you remind me of the first one?
I thought normally, like, we don't pay the full amount of the works, and often we only pay a portion, and the applicant is required to pay a portion of the works. The grant usually doesn't cover the full amount. Is there a requirement in the grant that the applicant should pay a portion of it as well?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, through you, the chair. Thank you, Councillor Bothwell. So for the first question, there's no contribution required, like no significant amount required from the applicant. Typically with heritage restoration, it's very expensive. So that's why we normally see a very high price tag. I believe this was a safety upgrade as well as a heritage restoration, and it's due to the failing of areas in the porch, and that's why it's been in a I'd say like a targeted area, but if these people were to actually restore the full porch and all of the wood details, it would be very significant. So they just didn't get a quote for the entire, they went for a specific area, but there's no minimum. And then, yeah, so 15K from the town, 15K from the region. And we can check in on the balance that we still have. This is just the complete application we have at this time, and it's the first one of this year. So I can double check with finance on that.
I think that's really important because this may be the only application we can approve. And that's why we added the 10K, because I think we only had 10K left, which means we might only have 20K. And this is going to give 15, which only leaves 5. So I'm just thinking that if the potential is that if we just do 10K, so that we leave 10K for another application, that's all. That's just my thinking. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bothwell. Just to add to that, so if we decided to go that route, which we could amend the proposed resolution here, but if we did go that route, so then it would change to 10K from us, and then the region matches whatever we contribute. So this would be a 10K, and then if we did another site, then same thing. So just to add that, but I think I answered your questions. Thank you.
Hi, Pamela, your hand's up. Go ahead.
Thank you. Do they have other work that they're going to be doing on the property, Bianca?
Go ahead, Bianca.
Thank you, through the chair. I know from my standpoint, when I come on the site, I see a lot of areas that need restoration work. So in the long term, yes, they're going to have a lot of significant work. I don't know what their plans are as next steps. I don't know what their long-term goal is either, but from my assessment on site, there is a lot of areas that are in need of long-term restoration work.
And from my understanding, this is a property that we as the town designated, correct?
This is our most recent through the chair, this is our most recent designation.
Okay. There's quite a significant price tag to the amount of work that needs to be done, but that does speak to heritage homes and the challenge sometimes of finding people to do this type of work as well. And there's definitely a safety issue, I think, that needs to be considered with this as well. So thank you.
Any further questions? Peter, can you take down the PowerPoint? Thank you. Good. I see no further questions. I'll read the recommendation, the motion. Resolve the report GH 2204 regarding the recommendation that the town of Grimsby enter into a heritage grant agreement with 130 Main Street East be received, and that the designated heritage property grant application for 130 Main Street East for $30,000 combined regional and municipal, so it's 15 and 15 contribution for the porch carpentry restoration facing Main Street East be endorsed, subject to the following condition. A, the home or the owner applicant provide final restoration details for review and approval by town's planning staff prior to restoration work, and that the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee recommend that staff prepare the associated restoration grant agreement, and that the grant agreement be signed by the applicant, the mayor, and the town clerk. So I need a mover and a seconder for that motion. Pamela Evans is seconder, and Brian. And all in favor of this motion? And that's carried. Thank you. And the next item on the agenda is the status and activity sheet. Everybody's had a chance to review it. Is there any questions or concerns about the status and activities sheet? Okay. If I could have a mover and a seconder to move that, and the result that the status and activities sheet be received. Could I get a mover? Oh, Councillor Bothwell, do you have a question?
Sorry, yes, please, Chair. Just a quick question to Bianca on the plaques. So how is it going with the distribution of the plaques to the property owners? And will we have a way of tracking when those are done? And will that come back to committee? Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Bianca.
Through you, Chair Dunstall. So we have been putting a lot of effort into the mass inclusion to get that out all finished for this meeting. So what we've done in the meantime is reach out to the homeowners, and we're going to be slowly starting to coordinate those. I had a little bit of concern with giving them out a little bit earlier in the year because of the epoxy. We tend to have delamination when the weather is too cold. So I was a little worried that they would move forward with installing those in the colder weather, and then they would fall off and we could potentially have some damage, and they were very expensive. So I was holding off a little bit now that it's warmer weather, and I'm seeing that we're having some ease on COVID restrictions. So maybe we can arrange for them to be picked up. Maybe we can have the committee present when we do that. A lot of hard work went into those plaques, and we also had a local artist prepare paintings for each heritage building, and we wanted to surprise the committee with that at our plaque event. So we're really hoping that maybe we can do a little something still, and at a bare minimum have the committee here. Maybe we can set up some times and they can pick to come in, and the committee can be around, and we can just show appreciation to our homeowners. So that was kind of my idea about holding off a little bit until we had some warmer weather. And I'm hopeful to do something like that. So I'll follow up with the committee on the next steps for that.
That's great. It would be great if we could get an update maybe for the July meeting. Thank you.
Oh, I think it'll be warm enough before July. Maybe we can do it before you leave us, Councillor Bothwell. Say in May. Yeah.
No rush. Don't make me rush the work of staff. Whatever works for.
Well, I see a ceremony or celebration, and after
anyway,
2 years of pandemic, I think we deserve to have something.
I think it's great.
It's great, yes.
Yeah, I appreciate the work that staff put into that. And I know that too, I haven't seen them, but I know that they're probably very impressive. So I think it's great. It's really nice to see this. Thank you so much, Bianca.
Thank you. Brian Riley.
Thank you, Chair. Two quick questions. Sorry, I didn't raise earlier. I was trying to scroll through the document, my notes. The last page, so page 152, the two items on there. Question on the item regarding the tree. I see a note there, staff request a member of HGAC retrieve a sample of the tree so the committee sent up for tests. Is that something that you're asking this group here? Like, is this something that we need to discuss? Am I reading that correctly, or am I totally off base?
Go ahead, Bianca.
Through you, the chair. So the member we were going to ask to do that had rapport with this neighbor, and it would have been a great opportunity. I can still reach out to her. I know she's very passionate about the trees, so hopefully we can still make that happen and have her retrieve that test. I will note that that is one of the properties that were included on the register. So there is some protection provided by that, but the actual retrieval of that sample hopefully can be done by this person still. So I will reach out to her and see if she's still willing to do that. If not, then we could potentially have another committee member go and reach out, or we can go back to the drawing board and reach out to an arborist maybe to have that done. I again need to take that back, but thank you for bringing that up, Brian. Sorry, I put your last name and your first name together, but thank you.
Okay. So one additional question, sorry. And then just the other item on there that makes note of the request on looking into Indigenous heritage names there. I see that you're looking into proper communities. Is there any like timing or next steps on this item? Any update further than what's listed there?
Go ahead.
Through you, the chair. So as discussed earlier, we had looked at potentially doing Indigenous names on the street signs. I think right now our first step is to see if that's something that would be appreciated by the community. And then I know we also talked about tree names. Right now, there's no immediate need for street names. So that's why it wasn't provided on this meeting. There's no immediate need for it. But as we get closer to having developments that require one, then we'll come forward again with potentially some street names, because I know Indigenous consultation can take significant time, but it is something we're working on in the background.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca. Seeing no further questions, can I have a mover and a seconder to receive this status and activity report? Thank you, Brian is a mover and Pamela is a seconder. All in favor of receiving the status and activity report? That is carried. Thank you. And under new business, this is a very special year, 100th anniversary. So did somebody want to speak on that? Any hands to talk about the 100th anniversary? 1922, very important year. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I'll just throw out the question there. I think there probably was some intent around the working groups working on this one. In light of the fact that we've referred that or deferred that, I can't remember which one it was. I'd still be willing to put some effort behind this, and I think it's an important milestone. And notwithstanding the working groups not being fully formed, I'd just like to throw the topic out there, see if perhaps there's something we can do in the interim over the next month or so, next couple of months, I guess, and put something together.
Thank you, Ryan. Can I make a suggestion? Mr. Chair, can we reach out to the Director of Parks and Rec, who's been working tirelessly on this, and see if the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee could assist in some way in bringing forward some of the history of Grimsby to celebrate the 100th anniversary. What do we think about that as a committee? Do we want to reach out? And I mean, we don't want to start duplicating something that's already in the works, and that's what I'm thinking, but I was glad to see it on the agenda. It's really important to come up with something. Is your hand up there? No, it isn't. Okay, sorry. Councillor Bothwell, would you like to say something about this?
No, it's a good point, Chair, because yeah, there's been a lot of Facebook posts, and Director Sweeney has been very active. I think there's even a branding and everything already done. Historical Society is doing posting, and Cultured Grimsby is doing posting, museums doing postings. So I hear what you're saying is we don't want to duplicate the work, but how can we jump on board and provide additional support as needed, Brian? So I think that's a great idea. Is maybe, I don't know if you need a motion, but that any interested community members reach out to Director Sweeney and look at how those opportunities may present themselves. It's a thought.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Good. Sarah Nixon, you're shaking your head, smiling. Got some ideas.
Thank you, Chair Dunstall. I am also interested, and I think it would be a really great opportunity for the committee to contribute to the 100th anniversary. I love that idea of reaching out to Dr. Sweeney and see what's going on with the Parks and Recreation and Culture, and see how we can contribute our historical passion to this history anniversary. I don't know if this is the right opportunity to share this, but I was talking to an old classmate in Grimsby who is a photographer based in Toronto, and during the pandemic he's taken really wonderful photographs of the town and just different sites of places that have been meaningful to him as a child, and speaking with members of the Grimsby community, seeing what historic spaces and community public spaces that have meaning to the city, to the community. So his name is Jeffrey Philman, and he has this photography project that he's just been doing as part of as just to pass the pandemic time. And then he learned that there was a 100th anniversary celebration for the town, and so he reached out with interest, saying, "Hey, I have these photographs. I've been working really hard on this project. Is this an opportunity to share with the community for the celebration?" So I said, I reached out to Bianca about this, and she suggested I bring it to the committee today. I don't know what to do with what you'd like to do with the information, but maybe there is something we can do with as a heritage committee with these photographs. Maybe, overlay his photographs he took with historic images from the museum or the historical society, or something to showcase the legacy of these public spaces that do mean something to our community for a really long time. Like he was mentioning, different park spaces like Murray Street Park, and just ordinary everyday places that seem mundane but actually mean something to the community. So I just wanted to bring that up. Maybe that's an idea going forward, but yeah. So I just thought I would share that. Thank you.
Very good. Yeah. So can I have the committee's permission as chair to sit down with Sarah as the chair of the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee, and see if there's something she's already thinking about asking us to do, and if not, maybe we can get her thinking and making some recommendations. Maybe we all want to get dressed up on a special day like they did in 1922. I don't know. We're clothes a lot different, and I don't know. Did they have blue jeans in 1922? I have no idea. No. Okay. Council Bothwell, your hand is up again. We're getting you.
I'm sorry. I just, we received as councillors just the invitation to the Historical Society show and tell at the town hall tomorrow evening, April 13th from 7:30 to 9 p.m. I believe that is a public event, and maybe if you're aware, Chair, but it's the items about Grimsby's history and their stories will make for an interesting evening. We hope to highlight items from 1922 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Grimsby becoming a town, as well as other items and stories that tell the tale of Grimsby's rich past. Please bring a friend or two with you to this fun evening. Membership committee will be offering complimentary books to new members who sign up at the meeting. A draw at the end of June for referring members to receive a surprise gift who brought in a new member. Cost of a membership is $20. Family membership is $30. Arrive a little early if you have items set up. So I would just, I'm suggesting, I think that's to the Historical Society members, but it is reaching out to the community to invite them as well. Bianca or Chair, please help me if I'm wrong. But I think it's a great opportunity for any new residents in the town, old residents in the town, people that they've just brought, like Sarah's mentioned, that might want to come and just see what all the exciting things are on display tomorrow evening, 7:30 to 9, and to support the Historical Society by perhaps becoming a member. So I just wanted to reach out there on that event tomorrow night. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that announcement. Thank you. All right. Seeing no further items on the agenda, do I need a motion to this? Sorry. Oh, sorry. Oh, Brian, did you have your hand up and then you put it back down?
I did. I may as well ask the question. Did town staff have any recommendations on activities that the committee could lead or be involved with? We didn't ask that there when we were talking to that, but I'm curious to know if there's any recommendations, any ideas that you have.
Bianca, do you want to speak in? Sure.
Through you, Chair Dunstall, I was just going to reiterate some of your comments about meeting with Director Sweeney. She has some really good ideas, and I've been meeting with her to talk about things. I did mention that the committee would want to be involved. So I know she was going to I believe send us some correspondence or something like that to get us involved, but I think it'd be good too if Chair Dunstall wants to meet with her as well and just voice again that our committee is very interested in wanting to work on this. And I think there's a lot of opportunities to talk about all kinds of history in the community. And I know there's been a lot of discussion around Centennial Park and some of the Indigenous history in the town. So I think maybe even if we can help in any way with providing research and things like that, I think that would be great. And then, like I had mentioned, I think if Sarah was agreeable, Sarah Sweeney, that maybe we can produce some kind of document, maybe like a top 100 like heritage resources in the town, since that's more of our specialty, and maybe tell some stories that not everybody knows about. So those are just some comments from me, but I think Sarah Sweeney would be good to keep in the loop. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Well, if there's nothing further, I'd like to adjourn this meeting of the Heritage Grimsby Advisory Committee, and our next meeting is scheduled for June, isn't it? The second Tuesday in June. Yeah, yeah, June. I think I read June. Oh, sorry, July. Oh, my apologies. I saw the J, but I thought it was June. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance, and have a wonderful evening. And I see Sarah's. Did you want to say something, Sarah, before we leave?
Thank you, Chair Dunstall. I just would like some clarification about where we've landed with the working groups and our May and June meetings, if they won't be working group meetings. It looks like we do have a couple things to discuss regarding the street names for the Corniche Circle, and possibly work for the 100th anniversary. I'm just wondering, like, is there an opportunity for us to meet in May, or I just wanted to just have some clarification on where we've landed with that.
Sure. Yeah, I understand. There was a few things on the at the meeting tonight on the agenda that we did. Well, we deferred the working groups because we're looking for more committee members. So I'll turn it back to staff, and we'll have a discussion about it and see if we feel we need to go ahead and have the meeting earlier. But in the meantime, it is tentatively for July. I understand your concerns, though, so we will probably consider everything and get back to you. That makes sense? Thank you. This meeting is, oh, the hand's going up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Dunstall. So I just want, you're just mute.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just want to.
Sorry, there's an echo in here.
I've already adjourned the meeting.
Sorry. So I just wanted to provide some clarification. So that schedule that we're following is approved by council. So that recommendation to defer the working groups and add additional members needs to be ratified by council. So depending on that decision, we'll provide an update to the committee on our next meeting and kind of go from there. We need the direction of council for our next steps. So I hope that answers your question. Thanks.
There we go. Thank you. This meeting is officially adjourned, and have a good night. Thank you.